I mean, we're so like watered down with everything that we see today.
I mean, it gets pretty deep, man, but that health journey, man, major props. Kudos to you, bro.
It's been a
You know what I mean?
long one, but a fun
oh,
one.
for sure, man. Zephyr is probably one of the cooler projects.
I
He's
love
also.
that car, dude.
All right, we are live. Everyone, Sharif here at SS Customs. This is our SSC Wrapped Up podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, a good friend of mine, and world-renowned metal fabricator, custom hot rod builder, Scotty Chops.
How's it going, man?
Good, good. How about yourself?
Good. Tired?
Tired. It's
Busy.
been a long day.
Yes.
We're getting down on some projects. I'm sure you've been working on some stuff. So, first off, I want to talk to you guys about. Got some noise going off in the background. Probably these guys playing pranks. But I want to talk to you about, or at least you give a little bit of insight on who Scotty Chops is. So, give us a rundown.
Well, I currently own a shop in Hayward, California. I specialize in metal fabrication, airbags, suspension, pretty much building hot rods, customs, cars of the pre-war stuff. I've done a lot of lowriders. Mostly what I'm doing now is a lot of pre-war stuff. Trying to do more of the, trying to move into the direction of doing more Monterey style stuff. You know, like the new car that I'm building, trying to bring in some of that French style.
When you say pre-war, you're talking about the era of vehicles,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
it'd be pre-war, it'd be 30s, early 40s.
yep, and you
That's
do
the stuff that I'm really into.
Yep, Zephyrs and other
Yeah.
chop tops and everything else.
Right.
All
There's
right.
just something about that pre-war. You know?
Era of cars.
Yeah.
Is it the body lines or what?
It's everything.
Yeah.
It's the whole package. You could sit in those cars and you can really just flash back in time. You know.
What is it that you would say? Well, actually, you know what? When I drive different cars when I want a different mood. So the older the car gets, the more there is a different type of character involved.
Yeah.
So I would
I
say
mean, they're capsules of emotions.
exactly.
You know?
Yeah, I agree.
They really are. You know, if you're like really into one thing and you want to embed yourself in it, you know, you could literally do that. You know, when I drive my Zephyr around, I really love that era. I love the music. I love the styling. I love every aspect about it. So when I'm driving my Zephyr, I'm so submerged in it that I feel more a part of it. You know, it's almost like a time machine. You know, you listen to the music, you really could put yourself there. You know, especially working on all these old tools too. You know, a lot of my tools are pre-war. I'm embedding my energy in these tools that somebody 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago did. You know, and now I'm part of that. It's a crazy thing.
That's why I never thought about it that way. If you're going to be working a lot of these pre-war cars, there's certain things, tools, whatever it is that you're going to be using that needs to be either specifically manufactured to work on the car because it doesn't exist anymore,
Right.
which you might be in the business of making tools for yourself at least,
Right.
or you're out there hunting for just rare parts. And sometimes I've seen you post some really cool stuff like I just picked this up or I just
Yeah.
picked that up. So it's you know, those are things you don't think about, I guess, actually.
I found the old tools work a lot better.
Yeah, well, they're made differently, too, I'm saying.
They just function so much better. You know, I'd much rather run older tools, you know.
Dude, there's something to be said if you have a tool from that era and you still have it working today.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
I think
are
the
still
oldest
slanging
tool I have is from 1904.
them. 1904.
1904.
Wow.
And the big power hammer that you see me running, that's from era 1915, 1920s, somewhere in there. Just imagine how many people ran that and what did they make with it. And, you know, someone sat in front of that more than they saw their wife at home for many years, you know.
No. Yeah, if you put it that way, I'm sure, man. And it still stood the test of time, right?
Yep.
Where do you even pick up stuff like this, man?
It's in the community, you know.
Yeah.
When you start getting deeper into this stuff, you start meeting other people, you start talking with other people, and then things pop up. And you know, and as you're progressing, in skill set and all that, you start searching for different tools, you know, to keep up with the skill set and all that, you know.
Word. It's it is cool, man. If anybody ever has a chance to check out some of his work, actually you need to check out his work. Where can they find you?
On Instagram, Scotty Chops.
Scotty Chops. You'll see in the description below. I'll have him give a shout out at the end as well, so that way you guys can make sure you check out his work. It is something really fascinating. His Zephyr is probably one of the cooler projects. He's also owned was it 59?
Yeah, 59
Impala that you did a decent amount of work on.
Mm-hmm.
And when did you actually get started doing this metal fabricating?
When I was a teenager. Yeah.
How'd you, like, did you get a job somewhere?
No. I don't, you know, I'm trying to figure out like when it really happened, but it's just in me, dude. Like it's not, like even as a kid, I was obsessed with Hot Wheels and cars and taking things apart, you know, and always trying to figure things out. I think a lot of the responsibility for, like, say, the lowrider stuff that I was doing had a lot to do with the time and era that we grew up in too, you know, because it was like Snoop Dogg and all them came out with their lowriders and stuff, and then we're seeing it around town, you know. I mean, there's nothing cooler than an Impala hopping off the ground when you're a kid, you know. It's pretty inspiring.
Hitting switches, rolling down the street.
Yeah.
It was ingrained in hip hop and a bunch of other cultures back, you know, when it first hit the scene. And the hot rodding culture, though, especially pre-war era and then the 50s and 60s and everything else that were there, that's always been around. People have been doing that since those cars came out and existed.
I mean, a lot of our cars today wouldn't exist if it wasn't for those guys.
For real. I would say those were the OG customizers, the first flat
Gene
black
Winfield,
paint.
Barris, all those guys. You know?
Exactly.
And Winfield's still at it.
Yeah.
That's
pretty wild,
amazing,
dude.
man.
Yeah, there's some very influential builders out there from your era. That's more so, you know, I'm sure you're heavily vested in that scene. You know all the movers and shakers and players, but,
right.
You know, it's good. And, you know, I guess when you start at that young age, you know, in your teenage years and you just decide to start doing metalworking.
Well, it wasn't that at first. It was, I was super into the lowrider culture, so I submerged myself into that, you know. Bought my first Impala. Didn't know how to work on it. Couldn't afford to work on it. Well, figure it out, right? I learned how to work on it so I can do it myself. So that's where it started. I had a 67 Impala. The alternator went bad. I couldn't afford it, so I started fixing it, you know, and then it just snowballed from there.
Until you are today where you're shaping metal. I mean, for those guys that, I don't know if you understand what it takes, but shaping metal into a smooth shape like a 1930s Fender or some other part of this vehicle, which were super curvy back in the day, and just sultry lines. And you have to make this, not from a stamp, not buying somewhere online, but you're shaping metal
from scratch.
To essentially you can build your own car, which I think you were talking about.
Yeah, I'm in the process of doing that.
Doing that, right? Yeah. So that's absolutely amazing to me. So I always respected your art and your skill set and your craft, and still amazes me today. Sometimes I look at something you've done and you could just stare at it for a while, and just think in your mind like, okay, what it took to get in. I think a lot of people look at cars and custom cars and they look at it real quick and they're like, oh, that's cool, that's dope.
Well, what they're missing is the disciplines behind all of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the like you hear, you can't do this without personal disciplines. You have to have daily disciplines, you know, and you have to constantly push higher and higher and better and better and better than you were yesterday. Not for anybody else, not to compete with anybody else, but to compete against yourself, you know, and striving to be a better craftsman and do nicer work, you know.
I agree, man. I think last year with the word that I had during, it was New Year's Eve, and I was like, all right, cool, things I need to practice more across the board. One of those were discipline. I mean, it's such a simple word, but you know, the quote is there. If you can either live your life with discipline or regret, you choose.
Right.
It's simple but powerful because you really understand, if you really grasp your mind around that, how
Yes.
impactful that is to your life. So I completely agree with you, man.
Right.
This all takes disciplines in terms of skill sets. What you've done is take an immense amount of discipline in a simple, singular form of artwork. But there's a lot of other things you do. You get down, I've seen you do airbag setups, and you've seen a lot of the custom car stuff
Right.
On modern era cars and everything else. And you probably still dabble here and there.
The true passions are sheet,
Yeah.
sheet metal shaping.
Sheet
though.
metal shaping, yeah. It's really cool. Speaking of that, you've got some pretty cool stuff that I know you work on all the time. What would you say your probably coolest project of all time has been?
Personal or customer based?
Both.
My 37 Zephyr now is by far my favorite car because it's me, you know. Customer car wise, I think that this car that I'm building that I'm going to be coming out with soon will be the one. It's a 36 Ford that I've been working on. I haven't been posting any pictures or anything yet, but
Oh, you got a surprise for us coming down the line, huh? Well, your builds take like a year or 2 years, man.
They take a long time.
They take a long time. Probably
The
sometimes
stuff
even
that
longer.
I'm doing, you can't be done quick.
Nah,
You know,
you're building a car from scratch.
You
man.
really have to like be very thoughtful of everything that you're doing, you know. And in shaping these panels too, you have to be careful not to scratch the panel because you want the finish to be nice. You know, so you have to think about everything you're doing from the start to the end.
Yeah, there's probably a decent amount of thought. What happens when somebody gets like they get banged up?
You fix it.
Like that's a decent process, I'm assuming.
Depends on the problem, you know, but if you,
You have anything turned hairy?
well, of course, all the time. But
Like on a post build, like it's out driving around.
oh, no,
No.
thank God.
Yeah.
No, nothing like that. But, you know, if a car got dented or something, I would just fix the dent.
Yeah, I don't think the metal working is going to be too
No,
bad.
it's
for you.
not.
Yeah.
No.
It's just wild because no one part is exactly even if they're fenders on both sides of the car.
They're not the same.
They're not exactly the same.
I was working on a Rolls Royce at one time, repairing a fender, and I was trying to get patterns off of the passenger side for the driver's side, or vice versa. And dude, it was like 3/4 of an inch off. And then you
That's
stand
pretty
back,
decent,
and I'm
yeah.
like, now I see, like, holy crap. But that's how coach built cars were back then. They weren't perfect. You know, they got to get them out and done. You know.
Yeah. All right. So what would you say? I get what your baddest builds. Everybody's got your nightmare builds too, right? There's been something that you're like, dude, I'm never gonna do this again. I think that happens at least every so often, probably once every couple of years. You don't need to necessarily name any people because there are a lot of times. Sometimes it's associated with the build itself. It's just too crazy. You bit off more than you can chew. Everything goes wrong. What would you say some of those that come to memory are, if you can remember any?
Well, I mean, you always have your problems. You know, it's, trying to think. One of the biggest things is if there's like a deadline or something, that's pretty hard depending on what you're doing on the car too. You know?
I would say deadlines are probably some of the most stressful things.
Yeah.
If you're like a people pleaser like me, you want to make sure your clients
Of
are always
course.
happy. Just how you stick around for a long time. That's one of the things I always.
The problem
It's
though is
nerve-wracking.
here's the problem with having crazy deadlines too is that could potentially eliminate quality. You know, like I would prefer to seek out doing the best job I can rather than trying to meet a deadline. Because at the end of the day, a show or it's going to pass, but the car has to live with that for the rest of its life. You know, and I don't want to produce anything that's
Subpar.
yeah.
I
I
get
made
you.
an agreement with myself, and I'm not going to go outside of that.
I think all of us who've been around for a while, we've had to cut corners or do something rushed.
Yeah.
And then when we have to deal with the repercussions of it, right? And it's either you're not as happy with your project or customer leaves and comes back and says, hey, this is not to my liking here or there. And you're like, well, that's because I had trying to make your timetable. But in reality, you can always, most of the time, you can push back on that and be like, yo, I'm not going to be happy with this if I get it done by this time. I need a little bit more time to execute it the way I usually do, or whatever it is that you say. But that goes a long way for the client because they understand you care about what you're doing
Right.
for them. And at the end of the day, you're going to be happier. It's less stress on you too, man. That stress beats you up when you're doing anything custom world stuff.
Especially when you're doing stuff that's like difficult.
Yeah. High bar level, you're definitely on the difficult end of the spectrum. There's not many skilled trades, I would say, or skilled tradesmen in your arena. I don't know of any other that I know personally that do what you do.
There's a few guys that are shaping metal. I mean, I'm still learning a lot of this too. You know, I'm
How many years you got under your belt?
business-wise or shaping?
Just shaping metal.
Oh, man. 10 years plus? Yeah, maybe. Well, I've been in business 20. But see, what do you consider shaping, you know? Putting it in and thinking you know what you're doing, or like...
Well, I would say that the day you start is the day you start your learning, right?
Okay, so that was 20 years ago then.
Yeah, because you would say, I mean, you wouldn't get to where you're at today if you didn't make that first step.
Right.
Right.
I would say that I took a real deep dive 6 years ago. Is when I
Like when you
really,
started going
really,
really heavy.
really just, you know what, this is it. And then just recently, about a year ago or so, I made another deep dive, and I'm still in that one right now, you know.
So there's so many. There is levels to this, man.
Yes. Well, levels for
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
You know, and these are you know, one like my diet. You know, losing 100 pounds. That was all
Well,
part
I'm
of.
going to definitely get into that. But
That's all part of this
yeah.
too. You know,
the journey.
I need. Yeah, it's a personal journey, self-reflection. The day, what really happened was like I had my kid, right,
Yeah.
and it made me realize what life really is. You know, and the things that we do.
Hey, he's one handsome kid,
Oh,
man.
and he's
I
smart
love-
too. I love it.
Yeah, that
But-
kid is the most dapper kid I think I've ever seen.
Man, he loves cars too, man. I
Yeah.
can't. You know, I'm looking forward to see what he goes with this. You know,
Absolutely.
he shows a lot of interest too when he's coming into the shop. You know, on the power hammer and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Well, I mean, he was your factor, your X factor for change at least.
Yeah. So, you ever notice like when you build a car, and you're like, God, I can't wait to hurry up and get it done. Like, I just want to get it done, right? And you're stressing about getting it done, and then you get it done, and you're like, God, I want to build another one. That was fun. Well, I realized that in building the cars, it's not the finished project. It's what I'm doing is really what I enjoy the most, right? So if I realize that, then I can really, really enjoy it. So when I'm building these things now, I'm really in a passionate place because I realize that this is really what I enjoy. Instead of it just being a job, right? It's a whole complete mindset, you know, and trying to push yourself and reach new goals, but with this new mindset, you know. So with the diet and the self-reflection on taking responsibility for your own actions and trying to be more disciplined, the smaller disciplines that I started resulted into bigger disciplines later down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And you wouldn't think that some small discipline like, you know, oh, I come home and I put my keys here, well, put them up instead. You know, that's one thing. You know, that can translate into so much more later down the road, you know, if you keep on that.
Damn, that's deep, man. That's more
You
of like
have
a
to do
ripple
that
effect.
stuff.
You know what I mean? You're building like these small things that turn into a chain. That's where the chain reaction thing comes in. But yeah, it does small. You know what? As I get older and you know my business, personal life, everything else just gets more complex.
Mm-hmm.
And I've realized it's always, you know, instead of gunning for the fences every time, the big ones, it's always you make small improvements on a daily basis.
Yep.
And you reflect on those and you get better and better. And at the end of the day, I think, you know, over some time, you'll notice significant differences
Right.
that's sustainable
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to big pushes for the fence that
And
aren't.
you're going to have your ups and downs.
100%.
You know, you're going to have your failures. You have to fail to succeed. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah.
You have to pay.
It's the truth, man.
You have to pay.
Yeah.
You're going to pay for it now. You're going to pay for it later. It's one or the other.
Yep. Paying. So how would that journey, you would say your son was the catalyst for it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then obviously I've known Scotty these Scotty chops for a minute. So
Yeah, you've seen a lot of transformation.
yeah, I've seen a lot of transformation, man. So I've seen you probably what you would consider maybe one of your heavier times, and then you got a pretty rapid. I was like 1 year, man. I would say it was a pretty significant change. I don't know how long that process took you to get to where you're at today, but I would say you were moving pretty quick in that process. So what did you do exactly? Get into the health side of things now.
Well, so there's something that no one knows about me, and now you will. I actually, my grandmother passed away of cancer. I've had relatives pass away of cancer, and I'd really been intrigued by cancer or health and stuff like that. So I took it upon myself to start studying it. About 12, 15 years ago, I started studying all this stuff and trying to figure out, well, why is this happening? What's happening here? And trying to understand the body and trying to understand, why things happen, and like how things affect our body. And in trying to navigate, educating myself on this, I've come across people that I've read, and then that would, or I would come across somebody else. I would read their information and then learn from that, and then kind of make my changes at the time. So like I quit drinking soda. This is where the micro disciplines come from, right? 15 years ago, I stopped drinking soda. I stopped drinking Monster Energy drinks. I stopped doing all that. So I stopped doing that. I stopped smoking, and then it was just a domino effect of those changes. Right? But with the cancer stuff, it led me into understanding the body better, understanding the blood system, the lymphatic system.
About 12 years ago.
Well, it's up till to now. I'm still studying stuff now,
Okay. So you're checking out all the different
everything.
systems in the bodies.
Yeah, everything. One of the main guys that, he's not mentoring me, but one of the guys that I study the most is Dr. Sebi. He's a yeah, that's my dude, man.
R.I.P.
I'm super hardcore him. The diet that I'm in is actually Dr. Sebi's.
The late, right?
What's that?
The late Dr. Sebi.
Well, yeah.
A couple years now.
Yeah, he passed away in, I don't know the exact year, but it's been a while now.
There was one instance where I had a good close friend. He was a close friend of myself. My lady was a gym buddy. Loudest guy in the gym, dude. Yelling across the room. Like, he was one of those guys. Everybody knew he was there working out. He was pretty stacked, ripped dude, whatever. And but really good, nice guy, good heart. And he ended up getting skin cancer. And this was maybe 12, 15 years back, man. And he was scared. You could see it in his face. He was scared, but he dug deep, man. He went and read Gerson therapy. He read pretty much anything and everything. And essentially, the root of it was he figured he can essentially cure himself with what he believed caused what it was. Food is a powerful thing, man. And I'm watching this guy this whole time. This guy is like doing these sauna style treatments or whatever his light treatments. He's doing all this other. He's just we're going to Farmer Joe's in Oakland, which is like they got nothing but fresh organic produce, like a vast amount of it. And he's just picking up anything that's crazy looking, green, this, that, goji berries, all of it, right? And he just has us on this crazy diet. And it's essentially just fruits and majority of just green vegetables, vast majority. I would say that, and other superfoods that you would find across exotic parts in the world.
That's pretty much you're pretty much explaining my diet.
Yeah, and so he would put it all together, and he's eating. That's one of the first times I was introduced to kale. It was like 15 years ago, and all these other crazy like superfoods that are a little bit more common today, but back then was new or newer to me at least, because I didn't see them in grocery stores. Anyways, this dude's doing it, just taking all this stuff, and he's got a crazy rhythm. He's like just committed. And I would say maybe a year or so into this process, or a little longer. He's going, obviously, doctor's checkups. He's refusing everything. I'm not taking nothing from nobody. And a little over a year, I would say, everything came back negative. The doctor's like, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever you're doing is working. Because a lot of times traditional medicine doctors they hear things, but they don't believe it. But there's only a few people who have the will and the discipline to practice it the way you're supposed to cure yourself.
Right.
And
there's different levels to all that. It's not just one thing.
No.
It's not a magic herb or whatever.
No.
It's a combination of everything. It's mindset. It's everything. Frequency, vibration.
100%. He was into all of that.
Yep.
He was into meditation.
Yep.
He was telling himself, his body, his mind, that this is working. I'm going to cure myself. There was, I'm sure, a part of that energy I'm sure there's a part of that energy that works. But in combination with just these crazy superfoods from across the world, he did it in front of us.
Yeah.
Still around today. He's living his life. He's got married, got a kid now. He's doing his thing. But, I mean, he could have went completely the other way had he not taken it upon himself to say, yo, I'm going to figure out what this is and do some out-the-box research.
Good for him for doing the research because, I've been researching this stuff. I don't have a disease or anything. I'm just really into it, I like helping people, but it's a lot to learn. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot, you got to take the information, do your research on it and figure out if it's right or not. I've gone through a lot of different diets. I've tried a lot of different things, and this is the one that I feel at home with. I've been doing it for over 2 years now, and I'm not ever going to stop. This is...
You look healthy, man. You look like you lost 10 years in your life in terms of...
I feel like I lost 10 years.
Yeah, like meaning you reversed time. Obviously, you lost a lot of weight.
Right.
Your overall... just everything, just the way you look at things, talk, have conversations have just gotten better.
Yeah.
You're more focused. And I would say that's reflective in your home life, probably business life, everything across the board.
Yes.
And
absolutely
doing well.
I mean, all these little things, they create vibrations and frequencies, and, you want to run at a higher frequency, So when you're running at higher frequencies, it attracts better things, and then you can progress forward, It's like, you ever notice when you're looking for a red car, you start seeing a ton of red cars?
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're looking for opportunities to better yourself, they'll usually find you. If you're really focusing on it.
Yeah, that tunnel starts to really, that laser mindset starts to bring that stuff there. That's why I say you can attract things towards you. A lot of times I think it's attraction and awareness, because now you're aware of something you might have not been before. So, I mean, it gets pretty deep, man, but that health journey, man, major props. Kudos to you, bro.
It's been a long one, but a fun one.
Oh, for sure, man. You're gonna have that. There you go. Major win on your part, bro. But it is one of those, man. It's not easy to get to that level of
and having the discipline to
100%.
Not fold and I'm going to go eat this instead. I'm not doing that. And once you start going down this and you start learning about foods and all this stuff and some of the things that are added in the foods, you really just don't want it anymore, dude.
Yeah, man. It's obviously an older thing, but if you don't understand what's on the packaging and it's not simple, like down to minimal ingredients, then it's probably not something that you should be eating.
Right.
There's a very high probability that
you could take it even further and start looking in the genetics of the food that we're eating.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. The rabbit hole is crazy, bro. Rabbit hole is crazy, man. You're going. These are tangents, deep, man. You could have a whole conversation.
But the thing is,
stuff.
if you're going to practice this stuff, you need to know this stuff. You have to research water. You need to research minerals. You need to research the soils. You need to research all this stuff, dude. It's all a package. It's not just one thing.
I know I'm getting the 1 minute timer, so we'll pause and then we'll just jump right back in.
Yeah.
But I'd say, that whole tangent of jumping. I've been distilling water for like 15 years, bro.
Nice.
So at least 12 to 15 years. So every day, a gallon, every night. And so in the morning I wake up, it's there. I know it's literally stripped of everything. and it's wild, bro. You look into that container over time, and you see all the deposits that are in
Right.
there. And you got to, obviously
Are
clean it
you
out.
getting water from the faucet and distilling it, or are you?
Yeah. So, all right. So back again. Yeah, I was talking about the water distiller. So that I've had for like 12, 15 years. I've been distilling water. I do it out of the faucet, and essentially most of the water I drink is from there. It's I guess it's like an evaporator and goes through a cold system for final purification, whatever. And it's a drip, slow drip. But overnight, I'll get at least like a gallon, or if I had a bigger chamber, it would maybe give me a couple gallons. Eventually, in our new house remodel, we're gonna embed certain things in there based on our lifestyle. But it's it makes me feel good that I'm doing that to cook my food, or because we essentially make our own meals all the time.
Yeah.
And we're doing it for teas or whatever I'm using. I'm using that water. That's just one small thing. I don't think I've had a microwave for 17 years probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't use microwaves.
Yeah,
either.
so it's
cast
been
iron only. I don't use stainless. I don't use.
That's one
anything
thing
else.
I'm slowly gravitating towards. Just that stuff never leaves your body, right? So, getting more into those things. Even here, man, when I'm working here, I'm being more cautious and careful, wearing the
here.
proper latex gloves, right equipment that if I'm anything around fumes. But that just becomes with awareness, because I think more so guys like us in the car game, we don't give a shit when we're
Back in the days when I was younger, man, I didn't care at all.
Nah, you didn't
now
care.
I'm wearing gloves. I'm wearing the mask. But
Well-
it took that long to figure. Like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that's probably not a good idea.
I wouldn't say it's as much for me about fearing like, okay, I know I got to go one day.
Yeah.
But how that feels and how the years of my life are going to be as I get older, it seems to be I have a decent amount of control over that. You know what I mean?
I mean, the reality is, like, you can't control when you die, but you can surely control how you live in between
Quality
that
of
time.
life, yeah.
Right. For me, I chose my family over food. I didn't want food to dictate my life. I didn't want my taste buds to tell me what I'm doing. Right. I wanted to be around so I could watch my kid grow up, grow with my wife and all that. I don't want food to cut that short, or a lifestyle, So I started focusing on the things that are most important to me, and implementing it and focusing towards that.
100%, man. It's good, man. It's a good journey. I think this conversation is one of those where you're just like hanging with your buddies,
Yeah.
and you just like going on and on, man.
Yeah.
So I have it's like I said, it's a good rabbit hole to go down to. But I'm super glad that that journey's been a decent amount of time for you, and you're well aware of a lot of things that most people aren't, man.
It's been fun, like, learning all this stuff, because you learn a lot of different things. You get to learn a lot about yourself too. A lot of this is a self journey and educating and learning what different foods do and all that stuff. It's pretty remarkable.
The cure for almost everything, man, is in the food and the different
Yeah.
types of food you eat. You got this element, there's actually this for that. You got that, that's that. We evolved with the planet and all the animals and beings that are here for a millennia. So you're looking at all this stuff and you're like, well, I'm pretty sure we're syncing up with a lot of these things that are around us that have been around for the same amount of time, if
Right.
not longer than us. And if we're, if you believe in that, then you can surely find a cure for almost everything that is there, with things that we put into our bodies. So it's pretty wild the things that you can cure that people think you can't.
Right.
And cancer is one of the big ones that people say, oh, that's you got to go conventional medicine,
Right.
modern day techniques. But I think there's something for everyone to be out there. A lot of this stuff is being caused by what we are doing in modern day society. So if to eliminate that and then revert back, you can usually revert back almost everything. The body's crazy, man, and what it can do.
Yeah.
It's as long as you allow it, time for it to recover. Business is another thing, man. The automotive game, right? The car game. You've been doing business in the car world for now, you said about 20 years.
20 plus years.
20
yeah.
plus years. I've seen you for the longest time, car shows, car events, this, that, bag scraping, coming in, doing all your stuff. Now with the Zephyr. you've been around for a cool time, but it seems like you have a decent liking for all types of cars.
Yes.
So your personal collection, you've had some pretty dope whips, right?
Yeah.
I would say that 59 was badass. The Zephyr is probably like the creme de la creme of your, probably
love
what
that
you
car,
got. And was a pre-war era cars, right? That one's the black bagged one that you got chopped and everything.
The Zephyr, it's not chopped.
That's normal
That's
height,
factory.
or does it
That
look
car-
like that because it's bagged?
It's bagged.
Okay.
That car is all factory with original accessories. Now, these accessories on this car are extremely, extremely hard to find. They only made 5,000 of these cars. So to be able to find some of this stuff.
Pushing 100 years old, bro.
Yeah, dude.
You thinking about that, man?
Yeah.
And the metal's still there, hasn't
Yeah.
fucking dissipated into the ground
Yeah.
like a lot of these.
But the crazy part is, think about this. When they came out with that car, imagine what the people were thinking when they saw this thing going down the street, because most of the stuff back then was square, Model A's, Model T's.
Oh shit, you're right.
So you're going from not really seeing much streamlined stuff to all of a sudden seeing streamlined stuff within a couple of years, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, the Zephyr is such an impressive car just to look at now. Imagine back then when we're so like watered down with everything that we see today. Just imagine like what they thought the first time seeing that car.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I mean, I remember my first time seeing one of those cars. I couldn't pick my jaw off the ground, you know?
Yeah.
And that was I was about 16, 17 years ago, and I'd been on this journey since, you know, to have one of those.
Yeah. Well, not only do you have one, you probably got one of the coolest ones I've ever seen. I mean, that's some Calendar magazine quality stuff. And the fact that you were able to preserve something that's part of history,
Right.
and then find all these little trinkets and everything else to put it together. A lot of these cars that I have, you know, I would say a cool part of it is the hunt.
Yeah.
Like you're hunting
Yep.
for, damn, I want to get this, or I want to get that, or this special booklet, or this special piece in the interior or exterior of this add-on accessory that only you could order it, that only
Right.
when you bought the car, or was, you know, from this dealership that only offered this specific accessory. So, you know, that world is crazy because you start hunting for this specific
But it's
thing.
fun.
No,
It's
it's fun.
fun,
It's
yeah.
like it's for adults. Like you're like
Yeah.
treasure hunting for
Yeah, yeah.
adults, right?
Yeah.
In the car game, man. So I've been doing that a lot lately, and with some of the stuff that I have. My brother actually just found some stuff for one of my cars, and he gifted it to me the other day, and it was pretty cool. It was like some old brochures that came with the car.
See,
when
now
it
that
first released.
stuff I'm really, really deep into.
Yeah.
With the Zephyr stuff, and I eventually someday want to have a small museum. You know, I collect I collect old photos, documents, papers, and I got signs and neon signs and all that stuff, all linked to the Lincoln Zephyr, you know.
Yeah, I would love to see. I mean, we got to check that out one day. And you're also into the modern stuff. So
Yes.
what do you got?
You're going to make me say it, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm gonna make you say it, man.
Oh, don't do it.
He's shaking his head. Why not, bro? Why not? You got the Cadillac, right?
Yep.
Yeah, all right. You don't like talking about these, huh?
It's more personal.
Okay, all right. Well, he's got some pretty badass rides. So if you get to ever meet Scotty, talk to Scotty about his whips, he's got a pretty cool collection of modern day stuff.
Yeah.
And some of the obviously the classic stuff we've been talking about, which speaks to his soul.
Yeah.
But no need to be embarrassed on your modern day stuff, bro. It's actually really cool. It's probably the epitome of a lot of people that try to achieve something. That's the way I look at it, right? They're like benchmarks.
But see, like
in
that
life.
car is a personal car. You know, it's not anything to impress anybody or anything. It's personal.
No, it's one of those things that you look at and you say. See, that's the thing. Real car people understand. Like when I talk to you about stuff like this, for me it's different because there are people who buy cars for something or a statement, right? Because it shows them that they've achieved something. And then there's people who buy cars maybe for that reason, but there's also something that speaks to them about the car, whether it's the elegance, the body lines,
Right.
the soul of the car itself, its own character.
Yeah.
And when you're driving the car, when you're staring at the car, you're looking at the car people know, man. You got to step back, you look back at your car, you just fall in love with it every time. As you're driving it, you feel the experience, the mechanical part of it. A lot of the petrol heads that are into that cars, which are seeming to come down the line right now. They'll always be there, but there's a new era coming with EVs, and there is something about the character of these cars. And I think that car has a lot that speaks to you in that realm, as well as hit the other metrics or the other bars that we sent, that speak to yourself like, yeah, I did it. I did something. Right. So those are all things on your own.
It is a very powerful car to have.
100%, bro.
It does feed me.
It's a statement. And I could tell when you're enjoying, you're driving around.
Yeah.
Everything that I own has given me a different types of character, right? So if I want to pop in something old school JDM, and I have a whole different vibe. The smell is different. The springy seats, everything's like all completely different. And then you hop in something more modern, and it's just.
It's the great thing is having different. Those opportunities to put yourself in those situations. Some like you're saying, if you have an old Bug, like a Volkswagen Bug, for instance, right? The smell and the feel of that car never changes no matter what Bug you're driving. They all smell the same. You open the door to a Volkswagen Bug, it all smells the same.
It's true, man. There are certain cars that have distinct smells.
Yeah.
Rob's shaking his head over there. I'm sure. What is it, VW? You're talking about VWs? Yeah, he's big into the OG VW Rabbits and all the other stuff.
They all smell the same.
Yeah. Certain aero cars. I don't know if it's the leather, it's interior, it's what. Yes.
Impalas do too,
Yeah, those GM cars. There's distinct dyes or something to use in the leather or something, man. But they're just, it takes you back to a time in your childhood or whatever era that was. I mean, there are certain. It is a time machine, man, because you even have the smells, right?
Right.
Yeah, the smells, the sounds of this, everything else there. It's just, it pulls you back into it. There's Niles down here in the Bay Area, right? So
Niles is bad.
Niles is badass because the whole city downtown, it's just like, it's still period correct to whatever they stopped saying, you can't change this anymore. I want to say it's maybe 70s era, 60s era. So when they do car shows, car get-togethers, it's really cool because the gas station there.
Yeah, it's the whole feeling of the vicinity.
Yeah, it has a whole era vibe there.
All the little antique shops, the antique stores and all that. Yeah.
So when you're driving there and you're driving down that street, maybe to go grab some coffee, hit up some of your car buddies there, and just park it for a little bit, just chat up, catch up before you head off and do your thing for the month. They have those meets there, and it just paints the backdrop. So not only you have the car, but now you have the whole vibes there. So it's pretty cool, man. There's a whole car culture around that.
Yeah.
And with the pinups and everything else, that's there in that set tone and era. And I think that's cool in itself. Never got into it myself, but I admire it. You know what I mean? Definitely respect there.
Yeah, and it's rad to see like how much people really are invested in all that stuff too. It's they take a lot of pride in that stuff, and it's rad to see. There's a lot of passion driven behind all this stuff. It's passion driven behind everything, But I mean, you're seeing these people that are like, say, the pinup and all that. They love that era so much that they're embedding themselves in it. It's another way or form of it, living, which you really like. Like for me, my office at home's all pre-war. All my tools are pre-war, my cars are pre-war. A lot of the guys that I listen to that mentor me, they're not alive today, but they're also from back in the 30s and 40s. Earl Nightingale is one of them that I listen to. I don't know if you're familiar with Earl Nightingale, but I listen to him a lot. The main dude I listen to is Jim Rohn.
Jim Rohn's a badass dude.
That's my
Jim
dude.
Rohn's been around for a long time, spitting some real bars
I've been
about
listening
life.
to him
man.
every single day for at least a year, dude.
Really?
Every day.
I would say there's been several people in my life that I listen to for at least a year or two on end before I find some new amazing person. It gives me a different perspective. Jim Rohn and many other people like him have all influenced people like us in different and shaped our minds to think differently.
Yeah.
And I would say that there's, for you, what's your biggest takeaway from Jim Rohn?
Everything. He's changed my life.
Yeah.
Completely changed my life.
Mental space, happiness,
everything.
The way you move.
Everything. Absolutely everything. And
shout out to you, Jim. Shout out to you, Jim Rohn.
I'm not ashamed to say it because he's made a huge impact in my life.
You and many, many other people, man. And if you're listening, hopefully you get to meet Scotty and myself, and one day.
I think he passed away.
No, he did.
Is he still alive?
Jim Rohn, check it out, bro.
I think don't think he's around anymore.
Yeah, you could be right, bro.
If he is around, man, I'd like to go.
I've
hang out
heard
with
I've
him.
heard a lot of his. There's a lot of audio clips that I've seen of him in the past.
Mm-hmm.
There's also another big guy, dude. There's 13
Yeah.
years. Oh my God, his shit's still circulating. Then
And it's good, dude.
There's a starts with a Z. Ziggler.
Yeah.
He also passed. Zig Ziglar. See when he
I
passed away.
haven't listened to any of his stuff.
There's a few others. There's modern day guys too that I listen to that are a little bit up there, but there's different people in different facets. So if I want to learn more about tech or social platforms and things like that, they give me some energy there. It'd be like Gary. Gary Vee is one of the guys there. If there's somebody
Gary
else,
Vee's good. I
yeah,
listen.
yeah, he's good, man.
Yeah.
He'll give me different
He'll
type
give
of
it to you straight.
perspectives. Yeah, exactly. There's no sugarcoating.
Yeah.
Andy Frisella from First Form. Just I can go on and on this list, right? But they're all really smart, talented people that are out there,
Great thinkers.
that are hustling hard, and that are doing their thing in terms of that. And R.I.P. Jim Rohn. So, but there's and Zig Ziglar. Did he pass? Yeah, he passed a good amount of time ago, right? Huh? 10 years ago. But a lot of time when I was about 20 years back, when I was it's about 18 years, 19 years now. I used to do a lot of sales. Those were the guys that I would listen to.
Yeah.
And they were, speaking still. They were doing their engagements. So for them, they were even, I think, still making appearances at that time. So for me at that age, I was like super enamored with these guys and listening to they were so simple. They would talk so simple, and
But it was deep.
It was deep, and
It's
you'd
deep.
be like, "Damn, he just said one sentence." But
So
it
that's
was
one
so
thing I
deep.
like about Jim.
Yeah.
It's not he's not trying to teach you something to get you to go take a cold shower at 5 a.m. He's giving you information to really search within yourself to find your own answers. It's up to us what happens to us today and tomorrow. You make the choice.
Yeah. It was very eloquent with his words, man. So, and there's a lot of other people that are out there that will give you really good perspective. There's a lot of new people that are thinking in lines with that, but maybe with a new modern take on it. And that's what we try to do here, man. We try to bring people together and give them perspective on different parts of the industry. A lot of us who've been doing this automotive game for a long time, there's a lot of different things that we don't talk about.
Yeah.
That we get an opportunity, hopefully on platforms like this, that we can share. There's a lot of sides of us, and this one is one of the ones that I've wanted to explore for a long time with some of the people that I hold dear to me. So, I appreciate you taking the time to share some of these things with us.
Man.
If you could give some of what would be the best advice you can get? Because you're a business owner, you do amazing. You're very talented at what you do as a skills tradesman. There's a father aspect, a husband aspect, there's just a friend aspect. Everything that's going on in your life, it's on the up and up. And I would say if there's a piece of advice that sticks with you or that you think about, a mantra or whatever, what would it be?
Never give up. Never. Giving up is not even in the vocabulary.
There is no plan B.
Focus and never give up. It's really what it comes down to, man. I mean, think about all the times
Yeah.
when you got pushed into a corner with a project, but you didn't give up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I put myself in a corner all the time with like the metal shaping and stuff. Half the time, I don't even know how to do it. I have to figure it out on the fly. But you have to put yourself in these situations to learn. If you don't, a great boxer doesn't come by just sitting in the corner. He's got to get out there and fight and all that stuff. And when we're facing ourselves against something that we don't know how to do, we're in the fight. And you just got to keep pushing yourself through it. I mean, I constantly in that situation, and and sometimes I have to work extra hard or work long nights or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's got to be right, dude. And when you're finished, now you not only did a great job, you're probably going to start seeing different things changing in your life if you keep that up. And then also the self-development. And now you have a new set of skill set that you just learned because you didn't give up. You have. Never give up. That's it. Never give up.
I like it.
And you've seen me, from where I started all the way to here, and it's really what it comes down to is never give up.
Yeah. You can't throw in the towel, man. It's like a Rocky Balboa story,
Yeah.
right? So
There is no plan B.
I was talking to somebody about that yesterday. My little brother, I think it was 2 days ago. We were talking about something, and we got into some subject, and I was like, "Look, dude," I was just giving him a little advice, but it was like, because there's a lot of people that I meet, not just him, but there's a lot of people I meet that are like maybe obsessively trying to start this thing, that thing, right? Or they're moving along. They're like their focus is spread, and I'm like, and when it gets to the aspect of maybe a specific thing like business. I told him, dude, you can't do that. You gotta focus, pick one thing, go hard.
Yeah.
Don't look at this thing and that thing and that thing as a plan B. I did that, I made a mistake. And when you do that, there's something in the back of your mind, well, this is something I'm gonna fall on, that's something I'm gonna fall on, or it's okay if this doesn't work out, I have that. You have to have that just visceral feeling of like, dude, there is nothing that's gonna hold me back. This is it. I got it. It's all or nothing on the line, and if this doesn't work, if I fall down, if I face plant, I got to get up because that's it. I don't got nowhere else to go.
Skateboarding actually taught me a lot about life. Skateboarding when I was younger.
I forgot about that whole past, man.
Oh, yeah.
You're big in skateboarding.
I thought that was going to be my future, but life works in mysterious ways. But I think it worked out the way it was supposed to.
You thought you were going to have your own video game, huh?
No, not at all.
You thought you were going to be in, what is that?
No.
Not the X Games or something else, but no.
Skateboarding, it also is style. You're trying to form a style. You're trying to do the tricks. You're trying to do whatever perfectly, right? Well, when you fall, you keep going back up, and you keep doing it over and over. And I remember when I was skating, I would never give up. Like, I would keep doing it, and I would do it for hours and hours until I got it the way I wanted it. And
never give up mentality came from there.
Yeah.
It was a big part of that.
Yeah.
I would say, man, it's good that you embody that early on. I would say some type of hardcore physical activity will get you there. And skateboarding is probably a good way to do it, man, because you got to keep getting back up after you got injured, hurt, beat
you're,
up, whatever.
Beating yourself up pretty bad. You're getting tired. You're getting wrecked. But it builds resilience. It builds strength within yourself, and also helps you overcome situations. And having that sense of, no, I want it this way, and I'm going to do it until I get it that way.
I agree, man. Shout out to Independent Brand too. So, that's probably old school for you out there.
Oh,
yeah. All right. How can people get a hold of you?
They can message me through on Instagram or Facebook. Instagram is probably the best place to get a hold of me.
Scotty Chop, SKOTYCHOPS. Scotty Chops.
Yeah.
And you're booked out, right?
Yes.
Doing a lot of crazy metal work, a lot of cool projects. What's a typical book time for you? Let's say I wanted to build, maybe not something Zephyrus, but something close.
Yeah, you're probably looking at a couple of years.
Couple years? Yeah. It's pretty standard in your industry, huh?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of great guys out there building stuff. It seems like everybody's doing pretty well right now.
You still do odd jobs?
A lot of different jobs, yeah.
Yeah.
As long as it's metal, I don't care.
Anything they'll custom
Anything
fab.
that's metal, I'll do it.
I think I'm pretty close to convincing Pops on the 6.4. Obviously, the 60 is something we wanted to do, but we'll explore that chapter when the time comes. That thing is a beast of a financial project, bro. But working on a car with Pops again does feel good, so I'll give that. I don't know how much
imagine
longer.
what's doing it for him,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude. Just this past weekend, picked it up from our boys at Felony, and there was a lot of things we did on it. It rips. It sounds amazing. Those guys are good, but it's a costly project, man. This whole game is a costly world. So especially if you get into the classics and the customs and the rods. So, but then again, the money don't mean nothing because I'm doing it with my Pops.
Right.
So
Right.
at a certain point, I won't be able to, and I'll just have to look at that and say, okay, cool, we did this.
Right.
You know what
It's
I mean?
more about the experience.
100%.
Yeah, dude.
So I'll take it on the chin every time.
The car is just a byproduct of it.
100%. It's just one where we can pour our passions together and just have some time together.
Right.
So he felt good about it. We went to a little show this past weekend. It was good. We are doing a giveaway like we usually do. We're going to give more details as time goes on. But we did one last year where we did a makeover for a really cool guy who really deserved it, and we did a makeover in his vehicle. We're gonna do another one a year. So if you got something cool you want us to change, wrap your ride, do something to it, freshen up the wheels, whatever it is. Obviously, you guys can check us out on SS Customs, see our get down and everything we do. Go ahead, comment, tell us what project you got, and make sure to like, subscribe, check out Scotty Chops on Instagram. Make sure you give him a follow and check out some of his awesome builds. Do you have any final thoughts?
If you have any passions that you have brewing inside your mind, you should probably start seeking them out. For anybody out there, those are invitations to potentially a good life. I think if you go after things in life that you're passionate about, you're going to ride the waves thoroughly. If you're starting stuff, say for financial only, you're less likely to ride the wave. Like if it's passion driven, it doesn't really matter what you're doing because you love what you're doing. I think at the end of the day, just find your passions and, drive with them.
Big facts, man. I would say it makes it a lot easier if you're doing what you're doing, but for the sake of passion. So I want to thank you guys all for tuning in. I appreciate you checking out the podcast. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you do like, don't like. You don't like me. But I appreciate your time, Scotty.
Of course.
And it's always a pleasure. Good friend of mine for a long time. And I'm looking forward to the future and how we explore it, man. So keep building some badass rides. And hopefully you keep getting, more cool projects to do in the future. Thanks for checking us out. Deuces.